Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for coming out to join this Lunch and Learn. And we'll just wait a moment as I see people are coming onto the screen and coming in. You know, just as a just way of introduction, first of all, I just want to say I'm very excited to be doing this. It's something we've been thinking about. With space and time, it's so hard sometimes to all get together in one place for a class. And so we figured this might be an opportunity for many of the students that we've connected with over the years, and I've connected with personally, to have the opportunity to once a week at least spend time together and to learn and to study something and to utilize it to grow and to move forward. So that's really the goal of what this class is going to be all about. It's the plan is it's going to be just really between 12 and 12:40 on Tuesdays, and different topics each week. It's usually something related to the Parsha, something related to Jewish thought, something that will give us, I think, a little bit of inspiration and insight into ourselves and utilize as a means to move forward to grow. You know, I think one thing we'll miss in this opportunity, which I always enjoy when I teach, is the back and forth. And so in this format, it's gonna be a little bit hard to do that. So what I think we'll do is I'll present, but we'll leave a few minutes over in towards the end of the class for questions and comments, and you could share it with the group, or or if you don't feel comfortable, you could text me or email it to me, and I'd be happy to, if you want to put it on the chat. If you're on the chat, not on the chat, we have a nice chat we've already started, WhatsApp, and you can email me or just send me a text. I'll comment to it like that as well, or feel free to speak up on the in front of everybody. You know, this community of I think like-minded people. We're all trying to grow together. We're all trying to share ideas together, and it's wonderful to do and to participate. So with that said, just let's begin. And before I do begin, I do want to say that today's shiur will be in refuah shleima of a very dear friend of ours at Emet and student of Emet, Ala Adizoy Bat Rosa. And we hope and pray in the inspiration and merit and elevation that we achieve, Bezrat Hashem, from today's words, that it should be a refuah shleima for Ala Adizoy Bat Rosa, Bezrat Hashem. So today's topic is a topic that I've been thinking about for a while, and it's something I think which is very fundamental for our growth. In order to get there, I have to start with a story. And the story works like this: that when construction was being done on the house next to ours, we were knocking down one family, they were building a 3-family, and it was taking a course of time. There was a person there who was in charge of the construction. He was an ex-policeman, but his job was to oversee the construction and oversee the workers. And we used to meet each other every morning, and we used to talk, and we used to be friendly with each other. And one day he comes over to me, and he says to me, "Rabbi, I understand why Jews, when they pray, they move back and forth like this." And he said, "Rabbi, I've seen Orthodox Jews before." His name was Vinny, wasn't Jewish, but he said, "I've seen it. I know they go like this, and I was always intrigued why they do that, why they have such movement in their prayers." And he said, "I finally understand why." So I said to him, "Why?" And he said, "I was watching a show last night on the History Channel, or Nova, or something like that, and they said that the Jewish people have been in so many exiles," and it's true. We've been exiled around this world like no other nation in the world. To count the exiles, it's over 100 exiles we've been through. And Jews were always riding, were always moving from one country to the next country, and they always had to pick up and go, and it was quick. So he told me that what happened was we would get on our camels and start fleeing from one country to the next, and we didn't have time to pray. So we had to sit on our camels and pray. So therefore, we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like this, praying on our camels. And Jews have adapted that into the synagogues and want to remind themselves how they used to pray on their camels. So we shake back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like that. So I remember I looked at him and I said, sometimes when something is just so wrong, like you don't even know where to begin with it. So I looked at him and I said, Vinny, no, that's not it. I wasn't going to go into it, but I was just so, he goes, really? No. Let me give you insight right now why we do it. And this is a little bit based on the Zohars and a little bit Kabbalah to some extent, but I think it's very real. We have two relationships with Hashem. One relationship is the relationship of something which we call Yira. Now, Yira oftentimes gets a mistranslation as fear. The proper translation is from the word lirot, which means to see. Really what Yira means, and the way my Rosh Hashiva, the way it was always translated was units of recognition, units of awareness of Hashem. That's what Yira is, for the word to see. I have units of recognition of Hashem. I'm aware of Hashem. Now, of course, the more one is aware of Hashem, the more that will generate a degree of fear, and that's a positive thing. If we really focus to what extent Hashem is the master of creation and is the king, and it's involved every time a cell does mitosis, he said it's split. And Hashem's size is beyond anything we can imagine. That should generate some fear. But really what Yira is, it's those units.
Hello, Rabbi.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello? So really what fear is, or Yira is, it's units of awareness, units of how great Hashem is. Just to give an example, sometimes you have to concretize things just to make it real. We know that the sun is 93 million miles away from planet Earth, 93 million miles. We know that the moon is 246,000 miles. The closest star to planet Earth after the sun is a star called Alpha Centauri. And Alpha Centauri happens to be 4.5 light years away from Earth. Now, what's a light year? Well, we know that light travels 186,000 miles a second. That means in 1 second, light can circle the world 6 times. The world is 30,000 miles around. In 1 second, light can go around the world 6 times. Now, what does that mean? 1 minute. That's huge. 60 times 186,000. And we take 1 hour, whatever that number is times 60. We take 24 hours, is ever that number times. And then we put it to a year. We're talking about trillions of miles. And that's the closest star to planet Earth after the sun. And of course, the universe is much bigger than that. There's stars 1,000 light years away, and then there are other universes. So Hashem's enormity is beyond our imagination. So when we focus on how awesome Hashem is, it should generate a little bit of a shake. That Hashem is so big, he's so great, he's so such grandeur. And where am I in comparison to this? So that's what Yira is. Yira is that awesome awareness of God. But it doesn't stop there. As we know that the awesome awareness of Hashem is really in order to provoke an understanding of what Hashem really is. The more we realize how great he is, we start to realize, wait a minute, but he created that cosmos for one reason. He doesn't need a cosmos. He doesn't need a universe light years upon light years away. He does it for one reason. He wants us to realize how great we are. He created it all for us. That was the whole purpose of it. So it's all there for us to realize that there's a greatness in who we are. And he created us because he loves us for no other reason. And he cares about us. He's our Father. And he wants us to get to know him with such love. But if we don't predicate that love on that awesome awareness of who he is, the love is going to be very superficial and very shallow. First, we have to appreciate Hashem. You are so magnificent, so great, but you love me so much. See, if we were to start with the love and say, Hashem, I just want to love you, but I don't focus on the greatness, I'm not really digging deep into who he is, and the love is going to be very shallow as well. And the truth of the matter is, this structure is a structure which really exists in every relationship in this world. We take marriage as a prime example, and we understand that as Jews, we have certain laws governing before marriage and marriage. Before marriage, we have an aspect, something we call shoma negia, that we refrain from contact with the opposite gender. And the reason why is that in order that we should appreciate and get to know the person. Once touch is mixed into the fray, the emotions kick in, and we stop looking deep. And then, of course, in marriage provides a time in which a husband and wife have a deep connection, and a close physical connection, and then there's a time when there's a separation. And the purpose of that separation is to work on awesome awareness of the other, to be able to look and see and reconnect spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. I always think it's a fascinating halacha that says that even when a husband and wife are forbidden to each other, they should be together in the same room. Why? Because that's a place where there's speech, there's discussion, there's talk, there's rebuilding the emotional and psychological and spiritual bond. And of course, then when connection is allowed again, it's what it should be. So the cycle of awesome awareness, then love, but then needs to go back to awesome awareness. Awesome awareness called yira, to love, to yira. Now, that may be why we shake when we daven. When we daven to Hashem, what are we doing? We're coming before Hashem, and we're looking at Hashem, and we're trying to say, Hashem, I want to get to know you. I want to talk to you. But how can I do it? You're so massive. You're so big. There's a yira there. There's a fear. There's awareness of your greatness. But I want to get to know you because you want to get to know me. So we move forward in love. But then, wait a minute, I'm getting close to you, Hashem, but do I deserve to be here? Is it the right place to be? You're so mighty, and I move back again. But I said, boy, I got to try again because you want the relationship and I want the relationship. I move forward and I get closer. And I have to step back from it again because Hashem, you are so awesome. But I'll try again. I'll go forward. So the way we daven, the way we pray, it's yira and ava. Awesome awareness, love. Yira, ava. Yira, ava. Now, I couldn't tell Vinny that, you see. I was standing outside and, he was working on his construction site next door. Like, I just didn't have time to do it. I'm not sure he would appreciate it so much too. But that's what we can appreciate. That we're always trying to work towards awesome awareness and love. But if we don't have that awesome awareness, the love is going to be superficial. Now, with that said, I'd like to take us into something from this past week's parsha that really is related to Parsha Shemini, but sort of the end story was in last week's parsha. And that has to do with the two sons of Aaron. We know Aaron had two sons, Nadav and Avihu. I'm sorry about it. Are you with me over there? 1 second. So we know that Aaron had two sons, Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu. The name Nadav is an interesting name. It means Nadav, like a gift. Avihu is an interesting name, also means his father. So there's something in Nadav and Avihu which really reflected Aaron's greatness. Aaron was a Rodef Shalom, someone pursued peace. But Nadav and Avihu made a tremendous error in judgment. And it says that on the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, which is supposed to be the happiest day of the year, Hashem commanded us to build this beautiful structure, a tabernacle, which was to be a place where we could have this intimacy with God. On the day of the inauguration, Nadav and Avihu were commanded to go to a certain point of the Kodesh Kedoshim, the Holy of Holies, and bring a sacrifice. They went in and they did something wrong. What they did wrong, we'll talk about in a moment, but they did something wrong. And Hashem's response was they died instantaneously. And the death was supernatural. The death was a death of fire coming down, entering through their nostrils, burning them up from the inside out, leaving the body whole and the clothing whole. But the insides of who they were was completely destroyed. And they died. And it was a tragedy that ensued. And these verses actually we see in Parsha Shmini, right where it says that V'yichu b'nei Aaron nadav avihu. This is in Parsha Shmini, chapter 10, verse 1, Vayikra. V'yichu b'nei Aaron nadav avihu ish meitach v'yitnu b'hen eish. It says nadav avihu took a fire offering and he placed in it the fire. V'yasuma lekatoris, and he put spice in it. V'yakrivu b'nei Hashem eish zara. Yet they brought some strange fire to Hashem. Asher lo tziva or something they weren't commanded to do. The text say eish melifnei Hashem. A fire went out from before Hashem to chalusam yamusu lifnei Hashem, and they were consumed and they died before Hashem. Moshe then comforts Aaron, but what's supposed to be a day of joy turns into a day of mourning for Aaron. Question that our sages look for is, what did they do wrong? And I think what they did wrong is extraordinarily significant and important for us to know. What did they do wrong that brought about such a death? A death which, again, burnt them from the inside out, leaving the body whole and leaving the clothes whole. So let's see if we can explore it together. And I'm going to read from the Midrash Rabbi right now, where the Midrash Rabbi offers about 10 different reasons for what they did wrong. Now, each reason might be either the reason for this punishment or maybe what was the cause of their action that elicited the punishment. But there seems to be a common denominator in all 10. So I'll read through right now and let's see if we can identify together what that common denominator is. So I'm going to ask everybody right now to listen as I read these 10 different opinions or 10 different angles of what Nadav Avihu did that was wrong. And let's see if we can find in them something which gives us a united picture of really what's going on with them. So it says like this. Reason number one says, Shaharu halacha b'fnei Rabbi. It says that they decided Jewish law, they passed in the halacha in front of their teachers. Who were their teachers? Moshe and Aaron. They had an idea, they wanted to bring some different sacrifice. Well, if you want to bring a different sacrifice, discuss it with your teachers. You have two great teachers, Moshe and Aaron. We know of many halachot in Shulchan Aruch, how we always have to, before we decide Jewish law, we have to consult the Torah. Even if there's a greater Rav in the city, you're supposed to go to him. If you have Moshe and Aaron and they choose to decide what to do without consultation, that's one opinion. Second opinion was, Al Hakriva shenichnasu lifnei. It says they went too far in. In other words, there was a place in the Kodesh Kedoshim where they were supposed to stop and do the offering. He said, no, we're going all the way in. We're not stopping here. We're going to go even further. Number 3 says, like the verse says, he brought the korban, a sacrifice, which they weren't commanded to do. Perhaps that's the reason. Number 4 says, they brought fire that they shouldn't bring in. Number 5 is interesting. It says, they didn't even think to ask each other for advice. Before you do something which is not what you're commanded to do, like speak to each other, like, are we doing the right thing? It says, it says, have a friend, speak it over. Always ask somebody before you make a decision. They didn't even do that. As it says, ish mitachto, each man with his own offering. Ish me'atzmo, each took their own offering. Number 6 says something interesting. Al shaher shasu yain. Before they did this important service to God, they decided to drink wine. That's interesting. There's appropriate times to drink wine. Certainly at a simple and a joyous occasion, but if you're about to do such a technical act of service to God, is this the appropriate time to be drinking wine? It says they drank wine. Number 7 says, Al shahayim l'chasoy b'godim. They were lacking the appropriate dress code. What does that mean? What were they lacking? They took off their jackets. For us, a jacket is a sign of respect. before we do something which, we want to show either respect for Hashem or respect for another person, we put on our jackets. Before we pray, we oftentimes put on our jackets. Why did they show on before the Almighty? What did they do? They took off their jackets. They're unusual. Number 8 says, they entered into this holy place without first washing their hands and their feet. The Kohanim, we know, have a special ritual where they would wash their hands and feet in a special way. In fact, we have a remembrance of that. Before we wash for bread, we know we washed until Yadayim. That's in order to remind us how the Kohanim would wash when they would eat what's called the Truma offering. And we know one day God's going to rebuild the temple for us. We're going to have the sacrificial system again. Kohanim are going to have Truma offerings. And therefore, we don't want to forget that, so we wash. But they decide we're not going to wash. Something which is very unusual and something a little bit lacking maybe in proper respect also. Number 10 says something very interesting. And it says, Al Shiloi Lahem Noshim. He chose not to get married. Now I'm going to read to you what the Medrash says on this. And I ask everybody to stay with me to the end of this little piece before I get upset by this, when we read to you right now. Okay? So it's a little bit hard to hear what we read right now. So stay with me when we're going to work it out and we're going to make it better. But it says like this. It says, why didn't they get married? Amru, Achi Avinu Melech. The brother of our father is the king. Who is the brother of their father? Moshe Rabbeinu. Their father's Aaron, their brother's Moshe. It says, Achi Menu Nasi. The brother of our mother is the Nasi, is the tribal leader of the tribe of Yehuda. Nachshon ben Aminadab, the one who jumped into the Red Sea. Avinu Kohen Gadol. Our father is Aaron, who's the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol. Anu Sad Nikahuna. We're the number 2 lieutenants of the Kahuna. Eze Isha against Lanu. Could there possibly be a woman who's fit for us? And nobody get upset too fast on that one. So I give you a little bit of an answer what's going on in their minds. But on the surface level, and it doesn't sound good. We truly became a great for the family. Your uncle's Moshe, your father's Aaron. You have the Siyam tribal leaders as other uncles, and they felt there's no girl there who's fit for them. I mean, how's that possible? There's no woman fit for them. And the women are the one who came to the desert with, tambourines and drums, whether to sing, sing to Kosh Baruch, or could they have such a moon? They trusted something good's going to come from this. We knew it. We knew there's going to be an amazing salvation. But there was no one in the Jewish nation. Nashim Sikanios, such holy women. They couldn't find it. They couldn't see it. Reason number 11 says, or 10, and this is a hard one to hear also. It says, Moshe and Aaron used to walk first. But none of Avi used to walk behind them. And they used to say, when will these 2 old men die? And we'll be the new leaders of the Jewish community. The Gemara debates that and says, Rabbi Yodin says, did they actually say it? Or did they think it in their hearts? But whether they said it or they thought it, it's a very difficult thing to hear. To walk behind Moshe and Aaron and either think or say, when will these 2 old men die so we should be the new leaders of the community? Interesting. And finally, the last reason is that it says going back a year ago at Har Sinai, when God gave the Torah, when Hashem gave the Torah, it says that there were 2 people there on the mountain, as Hashem was giving the Torah, who were also drinking wine. Guess who those 2 people were? You got it. Nadav, Avihu. So what's going on over here? How do we understand this? Let's see if we can put it together a little bit. Nadav and Avihu were great tzaddikim. How great were they? In fact, at their death, Moshe comforts Aaron and says to Aaron that I knew from Hashem that Hashem's name will be sanctified with through the greatest people of the Jewish nation. And Moshe said to Aaron, I thought it was you and me. I realized it wasn't. It was your 2 children, Nadav and Avihu. They're greater than we are. And it brought out such a magnificent Kiddush Hashem, by the way, when he died. Why? Because perhaps people saw fair Hashem. Hashem doesn't play favorites, even with his people who are closest to him, or his elite. Hashem is straight, he's just, he's Yashar. If something needs to be done, he does it. But Moshe Rabbeinu picked up something on that view, that Kiddush Hashem be created was the indication that there was enormous greatness in the world. And there was enormous greatness in that view. They were considered after Moshe and Aaron to be the two next greatest. Yet, what did they do wrong? What's the common denominator of these approximately 10 different ideas, or 10 different looks, angles at what brought about the punishment? Whether this was the reason for the punishment or the reason behind their action, what was flawed in the thinking. Perhaps we could suggest the following, and this is way different than the Farshim learned. We mentioned at the beginning of the Shir that there are two ways to serve Hashem. There's Yira and there's Avi. There's fear and there's love. The goal is to get the love. There's no question. To have that intimacy with Hashem. That's what Hashem wants. But we tried to suggest that unless there's that awesome recognition of how great God is, and therefore it demands from me awesome respect. If I'm not thinking about his greatness, I'm not going to be focused on it deeply enough to really understand how much he loves me either. The love will be shallow unless it's predicated on that awesome awareness. None of Avihu wanted to get to that love. In fact, they felt that the mistake at Har Sinai was too much about Yira. It was too much about fear. In fact, we know that right after Har Sinai, Moshe is delayed. It's a 6-hour delay, and the people are afraid. How can we possibly relate to Hashem without Moshe? So they wanted to build a calf. The calf wasn't supposed to be an idol. The calf was supposed to be an intermediary, like a mask, so to speak. So to hide behind Hashem. You're so big and awesome. I want a little bit to hide behind you. Before we thought we could hide behind Moshe, but he's gone. He's dead. And after something created a whole light show that Moshe Rabbeinu was floating across the mountain. We need something to hide, some sort of intermediary. Of course, that turned into something much beyond that. The second stage of the calf was a tradition of idolatry and murder and all sorts of terrible things. But at that juncture, all they really wanted was some sort of intermediary. None of Avihu felt had Moshe and Aaron focused more on how much Hashem loves us, how much we should love him, and less on the year or the awesomeness of Hashem, we would never have made that mistake. So in the heart, and the very pure and noble heart of none of Avihu, they really wanted to bring the Jewish nation to a place of loving Hashem. And that's why, by the way, he said, we used to walk behind Moshe and Aaron. He said, when will these two old men die? So that we should be the leaders of the community, not that they had were trying to be disrespectful to Moshe and Aaron. They wanted to bring the community where they thought it needed to go, for love, not fear. And maybe with this in mind, we can understand all of these different causes. Cause number one, it says that they paskined the halacha, they decided the law, even by consulting their rabbis, their teachers. Now, I think we might suggest and say, well, if you're not looking to see the awesomeness of God, if you're not predicating your love by saying, I want to see how much I need to respect you first, and how big you are, and how just great you are. If one's not training their heart and mind to look that way, there's a problem. You're not going to see your teachers either. And you decide halacha in front of them, because you're not looking to see how great they are. If you're looking to see how great they are, how would you think to decide halacha in front of them? In fact, if you're not looking to see greatness in Hashem, it means you're not working on the attribute of looking to see greatness in a human being either. You're not even to see greatness in each other. As it says, they decided the law even without consulting each other. Lo notlu eitzah zumizah. They didn't even think to ask each other for advice. Perhaps this explains also why they took off their jackets. Let's get rid of the formality. Why do we need to be so, why do we need to be so formal in this relationship. Let's be more casual. Hashem loves us. He's our Father, isn't he? When I sit at the table with my Father, I take off my jacket. Do we need to wash our hands and our feet? Let's be more informal over here. In fact, let's be so informal that we'll drink some wine. We'll get the heart more involved. We drink wine, the heart is stimulated. Let's be more emotional in this relationship. He felt the same thing in Har Sinai. Let's be more emotional. Let's bring the heart out more. Let's drink some wine there as well. But there's a great danger in this. The danger is if one's not training oneself to look and see awesomeness, to see the greatness, to have that awareness and that yiros, as we call it, one's getting a very shallow and superficial vision, whether it be of God or whether it be of people. And maybe that's why we can understand that he didn't get married. Now, what was the sin of not getting married? Well, was there nobody in the Jewish nation who was fit for him? I mean, there must have been. There are great Tzidkanios, great Jewish women who came out of Egypt. But if you're not looking to see awesomeness, you're not looking to see greatness, you're not looking at the depth of Hashem or the depth of another person, you're going to look at all the women and say, there's nobody fitting for us. I can't find anybody who's right for me. No one is worthy of me. It's because they're not looking to see the inside. They're not looking to see the depth. Had they been looking and trained themselves to see that type of depth, whether it be in God or whether in people, of course they would have found somebody. And then get married. So whether that's the cause of the sin or a symptom of what's really wrong in their approach might be unclear, might even be the cause of the sin. I just, on a side note, I remember hearing once my Rosh Hashanah Davis, and Shmuel said, if that's the cause of the sin, how interesting it is. He said there were two women who never married because of that. He never knew those women. Yet they're going to be taken for task for that indirect damage. So how careful we have to be sometimes not to damage people, even indirectly. Be very conscious who we are. Of course, the flip side of that is we're going to be rewarded for indirect good. You have to remember that as well. One day Hashem is going to show us how much good we did. We didn't know we did. Because it's injury. But the common denominator of all of these is they weren't looking to see greatness. They wanted love without you. And therefore, what did they do? They went too far in. You know, Shem said, stop right over here. But wait a minute. Why can't I go a little further in? Shem's my Father, isn't he? Let me go into the private chamber over there. You know, I remember one time when my children were young and a few of my daughters were lying on my bed and it was time to go to sleep. And I asked them, could everybody please leave? I need to go to sleep now. So I remember everyone left and I come back to my bed and I see one of my little daughters there. She was about 4 years old. I look at her still in my bed and she looks up and goes, Abba, you didn't mean me. Surely you didn't want me to leave. And the truth is, that's an appropriate response. How can my Father not want me to be very close to him? Because there is that love and there's that closeness. And for a 4-year-old, that's very appropriate. There's a difficulty, however, in our relationship with God or with people. If we want that closeness, but we're not first working on that awesome awareness, the love that we have is going to be very superficial. It's not going to be what God wants it to be. They wanted love, but they were willing to sacrifice Yira. Now, it's interesting. How does Hashem respond to this? Hashem's response is a fire comes out from the Kodesh Kadoshim. It enters their nostrils. It goes to the inner part of who they are, burns them from the inside out, leaves the body intact and the clothing. There seems to be an important message in that as well. Hashem is saying, if you're not going to look to see the essence of the inside, or you're left with the superficial body. If you're not looking to see the greatness of who I am on the inside, I'm going to respond. I'm going to take away your insight. But perhaps the message is that if you take away the inside, everything that's left is just something that's just a shell. It was a moment of tragedy for the Jewish nation. Yet, from God's vantage point, it seemed to be such a necessary lesson to teach. Hashem needed to act with strict justice here, because what the Jewish nation needed to understand at this critical and pivotal moment of development is that the only way there could be a deep, loving relationship with God or with other human beings is if you first work to have yira, awesome awareness of it. And therefore Hashem had to act strictly. He had to act with strict justice. And through the Nadavios actions, the nation got that message. It's a tragic moment, but we need to know it. That for all our relationships to succeed in this world, we have to understand that we have to be looking at the greatness of who the other is. And then we can go to love and have intimacy. Then we have to always step back again and appreciate their awesomeness and give them that space and respect. And then, of course, there can be the deep love again. That's why we daven like this. Yira, love, yira, love. That's why we have laws in marriage that require separation at certain points. Because this is the means through which we achieve the love that God really wants. There has to be a structure, a law. There has to be a means to establish the awareness of how great God is and how great we are. I think that's a little bit the message of none of us. And I think it's enormously important lesson for our lives and something to think about. Then whatever relationship it might be, the respect and awe we have for the other is really the means through which we are able to see how great the other is and to love the other and to have that bond that we're really all looking for. I'm going to stop over here right now. And I want to thank everybody for joining and listening today. And we hope to make this a series, a lunch and learn. I will open, I understand people have to get back to whatever they're doing. I'm more than happy to stay online for a few more minutes if anybody wants to open up for discussion or conversation, or if a person wants to text me or email me privately, that's okay. We have to respond to that as well. And most importantly, I hope this can become a forum as we go forward to share ideas together and to learn together. And if space and distance seems to separate our learning, the Rebbe Shalom has given us technology to allow us to connect in this way. And I hope everybody will join us as we go forward with this concept going forward as well. I will open the floor right now to questions for a few minutes. And I do understand, of course, everybody needs to get back to what they're doing today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Could you quickly just explain how you got to the conclusion of that's why the fire consumed their inside and left their bodies intact?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think it's sort of a meter connected meter type idea. That, in other words, you didn't look to see who I am on the inside. So I'm kind of taking away your inside. And of course the second stage in that thought process is that, if you're not looking to see the inside, what's there? What do you have left? You have a beautiful body and you have beautiful clothing, but you don't know the essence of the person.